Impact Media. Putting a face on radio.
I'm Burl Schwartz here with Kyle Malin. You're listening to City Pulse on Exposure, and I'm delighted to have a first-time guest and an important one, President of Michigan State University, Lou Anna Simon. President Simon, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation.
Well, you had a big year, too, even though it came right down to the wire to find out just how big a year it was. The decision to put FRIB, the Facility for Rare Isotope Beams at Michigan State University, is the biggest economic news that Michigan's had in a good long while. Congratulations.
Well, it was really a team effort. So Team FRIB won the competition, led by Conrad Gelpke and Thomas Glossmacher and the entire group at the lab. They were just absolutely spectacular.
The competition for it was just outside of Chicago, the Argonne National Laboratory, and I wondered, as you watched the campaign develop and then President-elect Obama be elected, did you get nervous? Did you think, I wonder if they're going to get it by virtue of his election?
Well, actually, the concern was that this type of project would naturally go to a national laboratory. So a competition had to be structured to permit us to compete against a national laboratory for this project. And so in that sense, it was really the nature of the structured competition, believing that this would be made. Actually, in the terms of big science, this is a relatively small project and does not even require secretary approval at the level that it's being reviewed. So it was really a procurement process in some ways, and we were very fortunate that the team did a great job on a merit-based process.
Well, yeah, I don't know if you answered my question, though. Did you get concerned at all as Obama ascended?
No, actually, I really felt that the concern was really the competition between a national laboratory and a university, more than the political context around the Obama election.
President Simon, talk about the campaign that you have to put together in order to win something like this. Who is involved and who are you talking to?
Well, again, the part of the campaign that began really 2 or 3 years ago, 3 years ago almost, when the Rare Isotope Accelerator, RIA, was put off the table because of cost and complexity of the project at a $1.5 billion project. And that does, in Washington, get into the political realm.
Oh.
If I sort of put it. Mm-hmm. So we had then to think about what would be the future of the laboratory if RIA was not built. And so the scientists led by Conrad Gelpke did a superb job of developing a white paper about the future of rare isotope research from their perspective and how we could use existing infrastructure in the laboratory to move this area of research forward.
So who do you talk to in Washington about this?
Well, you talk to, again, it really is a scientific project. So we had to have the view of what is now FRIB endorsed by the scientific community. And there's a group called NSAC, which develops the scientific priorities for nuclear physics for the next 5-year period. So the first group is get the scientists engaged in making sure that this work is prioritized above other big science projects. So that's the first part of, quote, the political small p process. Secondly, then you want to make sure that you have a level of support because this will be funded over a long period of time. So it's not simply winning, it's making sure that the funding is there for a project. So you want your congressional delegation to be able to be committed to finding the funding and working with the Department of Energy, if you're awarded the project, to be sure that it can go forward.
What is the role of the president of a university in making sure a campaign like this that someone doesn't drop the ball?
Well, part of it is working as a team, and so meeting with Dr. Gelpke, Provost Wilcox, Fred Poston plays a big role because we have to do a lot of infrastructure and make sure that the infrastructure is adequate to do this project. And then we put together a very large advisory committee to be sure that we had the support across the state for this project. and that we could continue that support. And then we obviously had to show the economic impact to the state in order for the state to provide some support for us.
What was it that put Michigan State over the top on this? Were you told this is what won you the project?
What we're told is that we obviously won on the science of the proposal. Because that has to be first and foremost. The match that we were able to put together with the state support also made a difference. Because it permits the federal dollars to go further. And I think we convinced them in the orals and in the site visit that we could in fact do a project of this magnitude and do it within the context of the Department of Energy rules.
Because what are you guys going to be doing in this lab? Are you guys going to be blowing up atoms, or what are you going to be doing here?
In the lab, in the FRIB?
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to get other students over to do a demonstration for you.
But the layman terms, I mean, are you...
Well, essentially what you try to understand is the nature of matter. And you do that by creating these rare isotopes that existed, people believe, as a part of the formation of the universe, however one defines how it was formed or who started it, the scientific process that one looks at. And so you do that by creating what are called these rare isotopes. And it comes from infusing a good deal of energy, stripping off the electrons so that you're left with the protons and neutrons, which then essentially colliding them with targets at various speeds with various materials, and you learn more about the way in which those isotopes exist and their characteristics.
And what can society get from this? I mean, what do we get out of this from crashing these things together?
Well, this is a basic research project, and universities need to be a place of basic research, because if you ask the question, what do we get out of it, there's a short-term answer. But if you think about the work that Henry Blosser did, because the board approved a building for the first cyclotron in 1962, $2.8 million to start the work in nuclear physics. And out of that came some of the work that Henry did with Harper Grace Hospital on proton therapy for cancer. But the lag time is longer. You can try to think about this in understanding different kinds of materials that may be created through nanotechnology. But fundamentally, it's an understanding of what's around us. And in the same way that much of what we do as a university doesn't necessarily have to have a practical application to be important. That's what makes a university. And I think so, and this is just sort of one of those really extraordinary opportunities to be at the frontier of basic research in nuclear physics.
You're listening to City Pulse here on Exposure. I'm Burl Schwartz here with Kyle Malin. We are talking to Michigan State University President Lou Anna Simon.